Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this live webinar today. The time is now 11:01 on this beautiful sunny summer day in San Francisco. And today we're going to be talking about managing your sales pipeline in Odoo. My name is Clark, and I will be hosting today's session, which will be presented by my colleague Andre here. Andre. Before we begin, I just want to go over a few procedural items for anyone who's unfamiliar with this format. Today's presentation should take about 30 minutes, which will leave us 15 or so minutes for a Q&A at the end of the session. Throughout Andre's presentation, I will be answering your questions in the chat box on the right hand of the video, so keep your questions coming throughout the presentation, and I'll do my best to answer them there. Of course, if I can't answer the question in chat, I'll hold it for the end, so we can go over it live, perhaps with a demonstration with a bit of discussion at the end of the presentation. Or if the question bears further discussion, of course, don't hesitate to ask it. I can address it briefly in the chat, and then we can go over it again in more detail. So by all means, keep your questions coming, and also save some for the end. Also know that today's session is being recorded, which includes the Q&A, and you can review that at any time by revisiting this page's URL. This is the same as the access link that you received by email if you signed up for the webinar, or if you got here by another means via our YouTube channel perhaps. Just copy the URL at the top of the page, and you can revisit that at any time. And of course, feel free to share that link. And if you're interested in future webinars, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date. You'll be notified when we broadcast. We broadcast several times a week on a variety of topics, including webinars such as this one. So please subscribe if you're interested. Also, if we're unable to answer your question in the time we have today, you can book a meeting with Andre. There's a link in the description of this video. That's just odoo.com/r/Andre, A-N-D-R-E. No, that's wrong. A-N-D-E-R-E, excuse me. And again, that link is in the description of the video, and that'll just book a meeting directly on his calendar, and he can help you out. And with that, I will turn it over to Andre.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to some people on the East Coast. So today, we are going to be looking at CRM and sales. How I want to do this is really divide this up into three parts. So the first part we're going to look at is how do we get new leads and opportunities into your pipeline. Then the second part we want to focus on, once you're in your pipeline, how do you manage that process? How do you schedule activities? How do you manage that sales cycle until you close it out? And then once it's closed out, how do you take some time to report on not only your activities, but all your sales totals based on products, customers, revenue, things like that. So without further ado, let's bring this up. So what we're looking at is the dashboard that anyone sees when they first sign into Odoo. CRM and sales are all combined right here into our one application. When I open this up, you can see a couple of things here. Now we're in a demo space that has some pre-populated data for us to play with. They have some pre-set up pipelines or sales channels here. You can see some are based on territory, some on point of sale or website. We'll get to those later. Up here, this is going to reflect whatever user is signed in, any meetings, activities they have, any targets and opportunities and invoiced opportunities. When we click into this, you're going to see your pipeline. So what we're seeing here is the Kanban view of basically everything that this user has in process right now. We're going to revisit this, but what I want to focus on is how do we get new opportunities into our pipeline to begin with? And there's a couple different ways. So while we're here, if you have someone that's live on the phone with one of your salespersons or email them and they want to create one right on the fly, they can do that. They can add one here, say new call, add it in, and there's a new opportunity right there. You can see who it's assigned to, there's no activity scheduled it, and there's no rating yet since it's brand new. So that's one way. More commonly for a lot of people is you're going to have some leads coming in directly from your website. So let's jump out of this for 1 second and replicate that process. So if I scroll down here, we'll go to our website. And for anyone that has any kind of contact us form or reach out to us form, whatever you call that, using Odoo, you can have that from the front end here. Again, this is what the customer sees, tied directly into the back end of what your salespeople see. So if I do this quickly, and with our website form builder, you can have different information here, whatever you want to capture that's important to your people. Let's see, we want a quote and price. So I'm going to hit send. And again, from your customer's point of view, this is done. Now from your point of view, when you're going to come into your pipeline, and we're going to go back to the dashboard here for a second, that is going to come into the pipeline as a new opportunity in that new stage in the Kanban with whatever information that was provided by your customer. So if I go into the pipeline here, you're going to see it right here populated into new. And again, any information I have, name, email, contact phone, is going to come in here. So that's kind of the second way. Now, third way is you're going to be managing and bringing in leads yourself. Maybe you have a list of leads. To do that, you have to go in here to settings and under configuration, and you have to turn that on. Now, fair warning, once you do turn this on as well, that process I just showed you with the Contact Us form, it won't automatically bring that into your opportunity pipeline. It'll bring it into a leads list, then will have to be distributed by someone on your team. So let's save this, and we'll see what that process looks like right now. There's no wrong or right way to do this. It's just how you want to set up your team and how you want the information to flow in. If you have managers that have a really active kind of day-to-day of lead management, you can do it that way. Or if you want to just flow to your salespeople and let them run with it, you can do that too. So if we go back in here, we're going to sales. Now we have leads as an option. So we have some preset leads in here. These can be created. All that's required is a name. Everything else is optional, but again, you want to get as much information in here to give your sales team and salespeople a higher chance of success. So if I save that, it's there. You can see that convert up to opportunity button if you want, but most of you are probably going to be having a lot of leads, like if you're importing different lists, which you can, and import, and right here through our import tool, you can use Excel or CSV file to pull in a bunch of leads. Once they're in here, select those all, and here you want to convert to opportunities. And there's a couple important steps here I want to point out. So one, there's a couple of things that's going to avoid duplications or dupes. One, you can convert these all, or you can tell the system to, I want to merge this with existing ones. You see that took away some options down here. If you know they're going to be new people, you can have this basically create a new contact in our contacts database. So basically 2 steps with 1 stone. It's really, really useful not to have to do this twice, and it's going to be all the same information in the same place, so there's no discrepancies. The last part here is, and we'll get into sales channels later, you can assign this to a channel or to certain salespeople as well. The drop-downs are going to reflect anyone that's a user in the system and any sales channels that you have set up. Once those goes out, those will be converted and then show up in everyone's pipelines kind of where we were before. So that's the 3 main ways that you're going to get opportunities into your pipeline. So if we go back to our dashboard, let's take a look at that pipeline. So I'm going to go into my pipeline here, and you can see that this is my opportunities based on this filter, but let's take a look at everybody's. So what we're looking at is everybody in this organization's, all the different salespeople's, their opportunities and where they stand. So this is a graphical layout of basically your pipeline. There's also your traditional line view here. We're going to return to that. I use this all the time, and this graphical layout is really, really useful. So a couple things here. You see these different stages. These are just the preset ones, but you can add any stage that you want. I'm sure there's a lot of your own internal lexicon that you use that you call different things. Let's say first contact. So they're not qualified, but it's at least you've had some kind of contact, but you haven't been able to really have an in-depth conversation with them, and you want to say, all right, I'm going to put that in between new and qualified. And just like that, you can do that. More importantly, you see each of these stages as a little gearbox. What's really useful here is 2 things. One, when I go to edit stage, the requirements here, this is where you, as a sales manager, is going to be able to be very clear and explicit with your team as to what it means if something is in this stage, so everybody's on the same page. So we could say, let's see here, had a phone call, but no clear picture of needs. That's what that means. And here too, you can put some probability. So let's leave this one at 10%. And that's a probability of close. If we had qualified, we can look at this. That's at 30%. Let's look at proposition. This is at 70%. So as you can see, the further they go through the stages, the higher a chance you're saying this is probably going to close and win the business. What's really useful in this is let's take this pricing of information services here at $1,000. Since qualified's at 30%, this is basically saying, okay, we're going to forecast $300 out of this opportunity because we think it's at a 30% chance of close. If I pick it up and move it over to proposition, just like that, because this is at 70%, it's now going to be forecasting $700 out of this because of the probability that you put on it. So just like that, when people are going through, your salespeople are going through kind of their normal day and doing activities like that, you can have the system kind of set up in the background that while they work, it'll help you be able to report and to kind of have a larger view of what's going on while they move things along. A couple of graphical things I want to point out before we jump into what what the opportunity in detail looks like. Each of these people is a user, so you can see kind of who owns what. The stars are a rating system, and what's really useful is all these arrows. So each of these is basically the next activity, which we'll get to. Red is bad, it's overdue. We have green for today and purple for something scheduled. In gray, there's nothing. Personally, I think gray is the worst because if something's gray, that means no one's paying attention to it and it is falling through the cracks. I'd rather be late on something and say, oh, hey, I need to call that guy than just to completely forget about somebody. But again, quickly you can see what's being covered and what plates are being dropped kind of from a high-level view. So if we open one of these up, let's take the quote that we had put in earlier. So what you're looking at here is kind of your basic opportunity field. What you're going to see here, if this is a new lead, any information that they brought in. Right now it's not assigned to any salesperson. You can have the customer info. Maybe this isn't a customer yet. Things like expected closing. As you go through and kind of let's say you have your first contact with this customer, your salespeople are going to fill this in. So let's say one of your team calls me, has a conversation. Let's say John calls me and gets an understanding of what it is that I'm looking for. So the next thing he's going to want to do is use this new quotation here to send me a quote on whatever services or products we discussed. Now, since I'm not a customer, he's going to have to add me as a customer. So let's use one that actually has a customer already so you can see how it pulls in some data. So you can see that this salesperson talked to this customer, Agrolais, and that they had a graphic design project they were talking to them about. This is the expected revenue that after that conversation, the salesperson has an idea of how much that's going to come in. And since it's a stage, it's only at 10% right now, and he thinks that it is going to close this month. So after that, all filled in, when hit new quotation. And what this is going to bring up is after you have that conversation, you're going to be able to turn that into an actual quote to send to that customer. Now, a lot of stuff going on here, so we're going to spend a little time in seeing where all this information is coming from. Now, Agrolais is already a customer in our customer database. If I hit the pop-out right here, you're going to be able to see kind of the whole story of your relationship with this company. So this is the company overall, all their contact information, individuals that you deal with at the company, and they have a field just like this where you'll be able to see their contact info. Across the top here, again, the story, you can see any current opportunities you have with them, any meetings or activities, anything that's been invoiced or overdue for them as well, or any kind of closed sales, and a couple of other options here like issues and events as well. So this is a really useful tool to quickly see from a high level your whole story with one company in one go. It's really useful in being able to kind of see a high level, almost meta level kind of data on a company without having to sift through a lot of levels of information to get to one point. Really importantly too, when we go into sales and purchases here, a couple things. You can preset things like, is this customer going to be handled by one salesperson? Can be handled by anyone? Any specific delivery methods that you want to assign to them? There are a couple ones, and we'll return to those in a second. Our invoicing, your payment terms. Again, there are a lot of payment terms, and you can create some more, and we'll return to that in a second. But you can assign a certain payment terms if you know every time this is how they're going to pay. So if we back out of this, we can see that once we pick that customer, all this over here already populated. Now, because you took the time to do that, every time you do a quote with this customer, any customer, it's going to pre-populate, no manual re-entry for your salespeople every time to do this over and over again. Now, here is kind of a managerial decision. You can have this, once it's pre-populated, locked, and your salespeople can't change it, or you can allow them to change those things. So let's say for this one, we usually do 30 days, but this time we're going to do 15. Right now, the user is allowed to do that, but you can have it set so only managers can change it if you want as well. Now, for some of these things like payment terms, you can see here, this is our net 30 days. But here you can build as many different payment terms as you want. You save them, and you'll be able to access them from that drop-down list. And it's as easy as adding a new term to it. You can be based it on balance with these options. It can be a percent, or it can be a fixed amount. So however you want to build out, or however unique your payment terms for your business, you'll be able to build a payment term structure that reflects that. And every time you send out a quote or a sales order, your sales team will be able to access it really quickly. On the other end, for your products, so let's add in an item here. Just like when we selected a customer and a bunch of preset information came in, same thing is going to happen with this. So if we search for, let's say, keyboard, you see description is going to come in, the unit price is going to come in. Where this is pulling from is just like we have a contacts database, we have a products database as well. Now, there's a lot of information going on here. Some of this doesn't really have to do with our sales right now. It's more of our inventory focus. A colleague of mine, Brett, did a great webinar on inventory. And if you really want to dig into a lot of what you're seeing here, which is a lot of information, I highly recommend you go watch that. He really knows what he's talking about, and he'll be able to kind of guide you through really kind of defining and setting up your products fully, from anything from sales to manufacturing and things like that. But where we're going to focus right now is what information is here that's going to get pulled into the sales process. So we're going to focus here, your sale price. This is what's going to be obviously on any quote or sales order. Your cost is what it costs you internally. If we jump over to sales right here, you can build in any lead times that you want basically for your shipping and your customers to know that, look, if you get this, we know it's going to take at least this many days till it gets out the door. And this is kind of your invoicing information, again, if you want to tie it to any specific accounts. But that's really where this information is getting pulled into automatically onto our quote right here. And you can see that reflected here as well. There's the 0 lead time and the unit price that we discussed. So if I save and close, that's all going to go right here. Now, again, if you want to allow your salespeople to, they can offer line item discounts. They can come in and say, we're going to give 10% off of this item. That's totally up to you. You can have them have the ability to do that or not. It's up to you. And you can see that it have been updated right there. So now that we have this quote right here, what we want to do is we want to send it out to the customer. A couple things that are really important here. One, when we hit send by email, two things are going to populate in here that are really useful. One is this PDF right here, which is just going to be a quick, let's see here, basic quote. You have this template layout that you can play with, have your logo in here, have this, a couple different templates. You can have it laid out and look nice. But what's really important is this accept and pay quotation online. When they hit that button, it's going to pull them. We're going to back out of this for a second to right here. When we hit preview, it's going to pull them onto your website, and they're going to be able to see their quote. And more importantly, they're going to be able to accept it. They can put in their name, draw their signature, sign and confirm, and you're good to go. That's really useful in terms of getting people, having that call to action and having them say, you know what, I'm good, and really striking while the iron is hot in terms of having them, kind of commit to it. Now, it's also really useful here, as let's say that you catch them on the train or in transit, no problem. They can pull it up on their phone, see all the information, and do the exact same thing. So really useful for trying to catch them, while they are interested in really closing the sale, and hopefully a quick sales cycle as well. So now let's go back into our sales order, or our quote at this point. And so now that, let's say that they went through and they said, that's great, we're going to go with you guys. So you're going to confirm your sale. And you're going to see right here, automatically, it's going to create a outgoing shipment for your warehouse. This is obviously using our inventory module, and this is a good example of how Odoo, the different applications, just seamlessly talk to each other. If we click on it for a second, you can quickly see what the product is, the warehouse, outgoing shipment, the number of the ticket, who's it going to, and more importantly, what the source document is. So this might show up in the warehouse's view, but they know that it came from this sales process that we did here. And all they have to do is validate it, apply that, and that's out the door and done. So now we go back to our sales order, and you can see that that's changed. Well, now we can create our invoice if we need to. So invoice for lines, create and view invoices. In here, saying OK, you can see the account that's tied to right there. We're going to validate it. And here you go. So here you can send this by email, or you can register the payment right here, or you can refund it after the payments come in. So let's register the payment for right now. Here, which journal do you want to go into? We can touch into the bank and validate that. We can see that's 6 there. So basically, from your sales perspective, what's happened here is we're able to go through this from kind of the quote, sales order out, have them pay, have product go out the door, have the invoice go out, register the payment, and tie it back into the accounting. Very quickly, let's show where that ended up before we come back into the sales pipeline. Again, back on our home dashboard, we look at accounting briefly from your accountant standpoint. They're saying, okay, where's this money coming from? There's our accounting dashboard here. We look at customer invoices, and you can see that the one we just did right here, paid, sales order number 30, and there it is all set. What's really useful here too for your accounting dashboard, when you're here, if you can see that that same company that just paid that one has a couple other outstanding invoices. What's really useful from kind of a customer view, you can click on them. And then once it brings up, again, that profile that we saw before, you can quickly see this overdue. And you have this nice screen here where you can see any outstanding invoices that they are owing you. You can have this automatically set up reminders by email, so we can have the system chase money for us, which I know all of us love to do so much. Again, just another way kind of the system can work for you. But after the sales cycle is complete and payment is complete or not complete in this case for some of these, and your accountants take over, this is kind of where that information ends up. So let's circle back into our sales pipeline. So that was kind of the flow of getting your lead in, your quote in, and walking them through the pipeline and managing the opportunity. But let's dig in a little more granularly, and let's say, okay, well, what are the steps of really managing that opportunity? As everyone knows, it's not as simple as, hey, a quick phone call, send a quote, great, we have your business. There's going to be calls, emails, follow-ups. You have to put in the time, and you got to manage all that kind of stuff. So let's go into this one here. Now, beneath all these views in Odoo, you're going to have what we call the chatter. So down here, anything that happens, anything that I do to this form right here, let's say I move it over to qualified, for example. What's going to happen is the system is then going to timestamp and date any change that happens to it. You can see that now, and who did it as well. So you're always going to have a nice chronological view of everything that's happened here. And that's going to be transparent to everybody. And there's a couple functions here that are really useful. So log an internal note. This you can write yourself a note if you want, make call if you want. What's really useful here is if I bring up the @ symbol, it's going to bring up all the other users in the system. So let's say I'm the manager and I want John to call this person. So, okay, I need you to call on Monday. When I log this, 2 things are going to happen. 1, this is going to show up right here, and 2, a email is going to get sent to that user. And in that email is going to be 2 things. 1, it's going to be this message right here, but 2, more importantly, it's going to have a link. It's going to have a link that's going to pull them directly to this point of information in the system. So instead of having to log in for John and trying to find this opportunity, get into his pipe and come down to this comment, it's going to be able to pull him directly from outside of the system directly into this very specific point of information. So really useful for different users to be able to communicate to each other and pull them into very specific spots anywhere in the system without having to kind of log in and dig through a couple things to get to that point. So if you want to go one level further, this schedule activity tool is really, really useful. I use this every day to manage my own schedule, and both an individual and a manager can use this. So let's keep going with John here for a second to show how our manager can use it, and then we can look at how kind of individual user can use it to build out their day and their week. So if instead of writing a note to John, and I want to say, you know what, I want to put a call on his activity sheet. I want to go beyond just the note. I get schedule activity. So it's going to bring up a couple things. One, any activity type that you have configured in sales, and you can make a couple different ones of these. You can come in, put call. You can pick the date and say, okay, I want you to call them on Monday. You can pick who you want this to be assigned to. Here's a summary. You can edit this wherever you want, make a call, and any details, ask for Joe, remember, let's say, 10% discount. Whatever you want it to remember, and again, you can put in links, any images. It's just an open field for you to do as you want, and you want to schedule that. So now that that's scheduled, a couple things happened. One, again, this is here. Two, John's going to get an email just like last time. But most importantly, now this is on basically John's activity sheet, and it's going to pop up in 5 days. And you can manage all those activities in a couple different ways. Once something is done, you can just check it off right here, and that's finished. Let that load for a second and see, there it goes. How I like to do it is basically from this view. So you have your pipeline here, and hitting this magnifying glass here is going to bring up our group by and filtering options here. So if I want to group by, you can see the options here and filter by. So I'm going to put on my opportunities. Now I'm signed in, remember, as this user here, who, if you want to see whoever you're signed in as, you go up to the top right corner, hit preferences, and you'll see, all right, here's who I'm signed in as. So anything that's under user administrator, and that's the picture, is going to show up. So you have my opportunities right here. Again, you can switch over kind of into the line view and see them all like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, all right, let's do today's activities. You can see I have none for today, upcoming over the week, anything overdue. And you can see, oh, I've been behind here. I got a lot of things overdue. Now, this is useful in this view, but when it comes to activities, I really like to live in the line view. So you can see right here, what opportunity is, what my deadline is if I have one, and what my next activity summary is. So you can have a kind of quick activity, basically call lists, email lists, whatever you want to do to let you say, hey, this is how I'm going to manage myself. And this is for me. If you're a manager, you want to look at your whole team, you can see what everybody has to do. Just like this kind of in the line view. So this is everybody's activities. And every time you create, back on pipeline right here, every time you put a new activity down here, let's say I'm going to do this for myself. And again, I'm the administrator here, so I want to say I need to email this person next Wednesday. I'm going to schedule that. And now this is due in 7 days, and that's going to be inside, or on rather, my activity list that we just saw. And this is really useful for a couple things. One, long-term planning. Let's take an example here. Let's say you talk to this person who needs to customize their solution. Let's say you had that conference call. I say it's all set. Now, during that call, let's say, you know what, this is something else happened in the company. This is put on the back burner for a couple weeks. So this is an example of what I would do. So this is today's date. I said, okay, had call, project delayed until next quarter. Okay, fine. So I'm going to mark this as done. And this is important. So scheduling is going to put this as a to-do. Once you mark this as done inside this view, it's the same as hitting those check boxes. That is going to register the activity. That's important to remember a little bit later when we do reporting on activities. When you go and run reports on what activities, like calls, emails, things like that, it's only going to count the things that either are checked off or marked as done. If you have outstanding ones, it's not going to register those because it hasn't been done yet according to the system. Let's say I did that, and now, okay, I have to call these guys back later. So I'm not going to call these people back for a couple months, it's going to drop off top of mind. So I can let that happen for me because the system can keep it in their mind, for lack of a better term, and remind me later. So let's say I want to call them the first Monday in October, make a call. I'm going to hit schedule. And you can see it's due in 103 days. And that's kind of disappearing to the background. And then when that gets closer, when it's a week away, when I do my upcoming activities in a week, that's going to be there. When that October 1st comes in and I come into the office, it's going to be right there saying, hey, this has to happen today. And then what's also really useful is, 103 days later, I'm not going to remember exactly what I was talking to Henry here about. I can quickly come down, read any notes I have. It'll jog my memory, and then I'm ready for my call, and hopefully it goes well. Again, when I go into my pipeline and I see upcoming or overdue activities here, if I take that out, go to, my activities right here, and I list these out on my opportunities. You can see all these different ones here, and you can see that this is the one we just did that is due on the 2nd of October. So you can see it's just going to live out there, and you can have it set by basically next activity deadline, so whenever the things are due. And that's what I do as well. So kind of things that don't have to happen later at the bottom, and you have the most important things right here at the top. So now that we have kind of gone through basically how you go through the sales cycle, how you are going to schedule and manage things as you go through your different activities. And this is, again, how you're going to manage your day-to-day, how you make sure you don't drop any balls, how everyone is kind of on the same page. Again, with all these activities and chatter down here, anyone can see it. So really good visibility throughout the organization on what's happening. So now that's all done, and you want to look back at, let's say a month, a week, a quarter, whatever you want to do, and say, okay, I want to see how we've been spending our time and what activities we've been doing, and then how did that translate into revenue for the company. So let's get into that for a second. So when you go into reporting here, you're going to see a couple different things. So let's take activities first, since that's what we've been talking about lately. So there's not a lot of data in the demo space. So quickly, I'm going to jump from this database into a live one with a bunch of data in it, so you can see what that looks like. So same way I got into that, I got into this. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So what we're looking at here is in this database, this is going to be all activities for all users this month. This is basically a pivot table, and you can play with it like this. So let's say we want to see by salesperson, and that's going to break this out by every salesperson that's a user in the system. And let's say we want to see by activity type. So right here, quickly you can see different users and how many calls, emails, meetings, etc. And these are all activities that you define in the system, and that's for this month. If you want to drill down into, just one person, or do it by, let's do that. We can bring this up. We can do my activities for this month. Let's do this month. Actually, let's do last month since it's a full, let's do this month or last month. So we can do this by date and break this down by day, just like that. Up here, you can have it by activity type, and you can see, again, calls, emails, meetings, and you can do it day by day to get as granular as you want. So really useful in kind of not only reviewing, but if you're a really active manager, you can say, okay, you can look at your whole team's totals for the day. Did everybody hit their call target, email target, whatever for the day? And the next morning be able to say, hey, you were short, you were over. And for any of these, you can then quickly favorite them as well. You can then save current search, call it whatever you want, and hit save, and you'll be able to re-access that. So let's see what that looks like. So if I did my activities and I did, let's say this month, I can do save current search and say ec. And you know what? Actually, let's add in another one. Let's do created by date. Let's by day. Once you save current search, you say by month. Hit save. Now if I clear all this out, I can quickly just pull back those filters like that, which is really useful. And then when you do the save, you can use by default, meaning every time you come in here, that's going to be the default, and you can share it with other users so they can see it too, which is really useful. So on the flip side, if we want to look at sales, so what did those activities translate into in terms of revenue? Let's collapse these down. And this is where you can really decide, okay, what important information, like what's the insight you want to gain from here? Maybe you want to look at by company, which is called partner in here, and you want to see, okay, this is how much I'm selling to each companies. Maybe I want to see which salespeople are selling to each companies, or maybe I want to see what are those companies buying. And you can even get another level to it. You can say, okay, I want to see what salesperson, and then I want to see what products they're having success with. So you can see that this salesperson administrator, how much they're selling to each company, and what products it is that they're buying. So you can say, look, we are just not selling really much support. Laptops really only have one customer of ours buying it, but it's a lot. And here you can see, kind of pretty stratified for these users in terms of what they're doing. And this is where you're going to get insight into how it is you want to, maybe run promotions for different products, kind of focus your salespeople in terms of where they should be trying to improve. But again, this is where you're going to play a lot with your information. And then here is what overall the numbers that we're looking at. So right now it's under untaxed total. We can go to quantity ordered if you're not worried about the money and you really want to just see, I want to see how much product we're shipping. We can again do it by partner. And let's say we do it by product, and you can get a very quick look of, okay, here's how actually many units of whatever product I am moving out the door. So really, really useful. And again, all these can be favorited. So if you're doing this on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, once you build out that report to see how it looks, how you like it, you can just favorite that. Now with all these, you can very quickly jump into a graphical view as well for any kind of overall, any kind of group reporting, things like that. But really what I find useful is the line view, since this is where you're going to get really your insight to information. And any of these, once you get them like this, you can pull them out into Excel if you want to. So that's kind of most of what I wanted to cover today. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions, but again, what we did today was really focused in on how it is we're going to bring new opportunities into our pipeline. Once they are in our pipeline and are new here, how do we move them through? And both, when I say move them through, not only putting in activities down in the chatter and making sure you're managing your day-to-day with calls and emails to facilitate that process. Once you build out your calendar, and how do we go through and sending out a quote, getting them that quote in their hands, and how we get them processed and paid. And we touched on briefly how the product gets out the door and how we keep your accountants happy by keeping all the books straight, and how that automatically is integrated and synchronizes here in Odoo. So that's kind of the overall view. I'm sure there's a couple questions for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that presentation, Andre. That was great. I'm just going to go through these questions in the order that they were received from the start of the presentation. So if you guys have additional questions or follow-up clarifications or follow-up questions, please just keep dropping them in the chatter here. So without further ado, let's jump into the first question. This one's from Katie. She says, you mentioned a contact database. How do... Oops, sorry. Just accidentally minimized that window. How do you view this contact database, and how can I view only my leads or my customers, but not easily view individual contacts? Can you just demonstrate that contacts database that you talked about? Just walk through where to find that stuff and how it works.
Sure. So you can get into it a couple different ways. Here you have sales. You can go into customers. Excuse me. And then this is basically your contacts database, but it's pre-filtered for customers. If we shut that off, we have everybody. That's kind of a backwards way. What I like to do is, and this is a quick highlight on our App Store, go into Apps right here. You can see all the different applications that are available. We're just going to type Contacts. And right here, Contacts Directory, we're going to install that, and it's going to end up on the dashboard. So when you enter it through sales, it's pre-filtered to show you customers. When you enter through purchase, it's pre-filtered to show you vendors. It's determining, since you're already in this application, we assume you're trying to look at the information from a certain angle. But if you just want to see everybody, this is the place to start. Let's let this load up. Again, it's going to show everybody, and some contacts are going to be people, and some contacts are going to be companies. You're going to have those individuals kind of associated with that company. So you have Asus Tech here, and then you can see the different people associated with it. So this is overall your contact database. What else did you want to know?
Let's see, where's that follow-up question? But if I could just chime in. So Katie, see how looking at Aces Tech, Arthur Gomez, or any of those Aces Tech, name, that is going to be an individual contact who is associated with the company Aces Tech.
And if I click on that, it'll bring us right to the company.
Exactly. And if you go back to the main Kanban view, and we wait for it to load, in the list view on the very right there, that'll give you yet another view, and this is all your contacts, individuals, and companies.
And you can quickly here kind of group them by company, so you can see, okay, here they are, or you can even by country as well. If you're doing targeting that way, again, you can group by salesperson. And right now, these are not assigned. And I think, Katie, you had asked something along the lines of how do I see my leads or customers? Now, leads is one way, customers is another. But if you come into the contacts, so let's quickly assign one or two of these. So let's go into these two, and we're going to assign these to a particular user or salesperson. All I have to do is hit edit. And then under sales and purchases, I have a salesperson here, and I can pick anybody that's set up here. So if I do sales administrator for this one, and I'm going to jump to the next contact and do the exact same thing. Save. And that's how you would assign them, Katie. And then if you want to go find your own, you would come back in here, and you can group by, it's probably easy to do this in list view, group by salesperson, and they'll be broken out like that. So for right now, Katie, we're going to call you administrator, and there are your two contacts right there.
And if I can chime in to Katie, your follow-up question, even if you don't have the Contacts app, this is literally the exact same view. You're seeing the exact same data here as you would be in the customer's view from the sales app. This is the same. The only difference is that this gives you a shortcut on your desktop for that same information.
Exactly.
On your app's dashboard. And it also, in the sales app, it's going to have by default customers applied. But again, when you just clear that filter, that default filter of customers, everything is absolutely the same. So
if we're looking at contacts right like this, and how it says contacts there, what he's talking about is if we can go into sales right here in your dashboards, you just go sales, customers, and you're going to have the exact same place. And just like he said, you want to take off that filter to see everybody. So two different paths to the exact same kind of bank of information.
Exactly. Let's see. Moving on to the next question. And Katie, I think we'll get to your second question later on down the line, just for chronology's sake. Our next question here is from Michelle, and she's asking us, how do we get the contacts page that sent in a new lead and auto-populated their contact info? How do we add that to our website?
So you would need the website application, which is down here. If I go into this again, Odoo has a great website builder. We have a bunch of different themes that you can play with. Basically, it is a form right here on Contact Us. If you go with our website, or even if you have you want to keep most of your own website, we're able to not integrate this with your website, but basically have this kind of relay through Odoo's kind of website functionality and bring that into the pipeline. But you 100% need to have our website application. And this, again, with our website form builder, I know some of our clients have want some really detailed information. All that can be built out and have all that information come into your pipeline just like that. So that's how you would get it. And again, whatever you fill out here comes directly into your pipeline. Just to touch on something I had said before, it's up to you and your sales team if you want this to go directly into people's pipelines or want to go into that leads view, and then you as a manager can decide how that's going to distribute it and who's going to take care of that. But either way, it's automated right from here, kind of the customer view into the back end on your pipeline.
Yeah, and to enable that, Katie, would you go back, Andre, to the apps dashboard and then go to website admin?
Sure.
There's just a checkbox. I think you can enable it from the website front-end editor directly, but if you go to website admin and then go to config settings and then scroll down a ways, it's going to be in the contacts Communication, there we go. And
Yep.
there you can select, you're going to check that box to enable the Contact Us form. I don't actually know if that's enabled by default, but if it's not, you just can come here and check.
Yep.
And that sales channel, those used to be called sales teams until the last release. Sales channel, sales team, depending on what version you're on. That's where you're going to select what
pipeline that goes
pipeline
into.
that's going to appear in exactly.
That goes by pipeline, and if you want it to go to a certain person, again, this step will be skipped or superseded if you have leads configured for your sales. It will not do that, and we'll have just sitting in a bank for someone to distribute manually.
Great. Thank you, Andre. Let's move on to the next question. And I think I already know the answer to this, and I think I answered it in the chat about as well as I can. But Mohammed, he asks if it's possible to attach more than one file at the same time in Login Internal Note.
Sure.
And do users have to download the attachment first to view it?
That's a good question, to download it first.
I think you do.
I think you do as well. I don't think there's anything kind of built in to have a little preview like that. But down here when you log an internal note, if I hit attach, I can let's grab these three.
No, you got to click once every time.
Oh, that's right, yeah. But you can put, see it's uploading right now.
You can grab the second one.
Do another one as well. Let's see if we get something different. Follow report, open, uploading it, log it. And now if I log it, yeah, there's no preview there. You just have to click on them, and then it'll pull it down, and you'll be able to open it up.
Yeah. And depending on your browser, I think it will open, but that's a browser setting.
Yep. I think right now we're using Chrome, so I think it's defaulted to do that, pull it up, and have it appear right here. So it's just a quick click, and then we're looking right at it.
Yeah, there you go. And a quick side note here is that at the top of the page, you'll see attachments. That's just under the title.
You can hit add here.
You can add there. You can also manage the attachments. From there, you can remove an attachment. So that's a nice place to manage anything that's on there if you want to remove something that's not relevant. Let's see, moving on to the next question. This is Katie's second question. She's asking if she searches for a person and she doesn't know if it's a lead or a customer, do you have to search both leads and customers? And the answer to that is yes, but...
For leads and customers, yes. Once something is converted from a lead, it will have a corresponding contact. And that's up to you if you, again, want to have that. So let's go over that really quickly. So here at Leads, we don't automatically, when you import these or create a new one, it doesn't create an associated contact. But when you convert these to an opportunity, which you can do like this, action convert to opportunities, you have the option to do that right here. I find it really useful because then it fills out the contact database for you. So specifically for leads, you're going to have to come into leads and take a look. But for anything else, once they're an opportunity, a customer, a vendor, whomever, you'll be able to find them in the contacts database.
Yeah, exactly. And we do this internally sometimes. Sometimes someone will reach out to me and I'll go, who is this person? And I conduct two searches. I always start with leads. I'll search the leads first because more often than not, there's going to be a customer attached to the lead. So even if they're already a customer, when I search leads for John Smith or whatever, then he's going to show up in that lead. And I can just click on the customer record to get to his customer.
Exactly.
But at worst, you have to do two searches. I know it's a little bit less than ideal, but it does just take a little bit of extra time.
Exactly. And that's just for leads. For anything else, if you know they're not a lead, go into contacts, and you can just start searching on whatever information you have. If you have the end of an email, if you have a first name, last name, whatever you want to do, it'll go through all of them. So,
yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Katie. But let us know if it doesn't. And for now, I'll move on to the next question. This one's from Nidager. He asks, how are emails handled when sent by the client? That's presumably your client that you're negotiating with. Where do I see them? And do my clients need to have user accounts?
No, your clients don't have to have user accounts. If you want them to have access for any reason into the back end of your system, then yes, they would need to be a user. We do have some clients that have that kind of setup.
That's a pretty rare use case, though.
But it's a very rare use case. Really, this is meant to be for you internally. And communicating with them from the system and out of the system is pretty simple. So if you wanted to, let's go into a specific opportunity. So we have this person right here. If you want to write them a new message, you can do that right here. That'll shoot them a message, as well as anyone else that's a follower that's over here, and say, hello, hit send. And see, now this is good. It catches it because you need to fill out some more information on it, so you hit save on that. That's fine. What else does it need? I'll just do that as a company. And then that's been sent out. Any replies to that will then come into the chatter as well. You can use that as well. Linking any external servers into here is pretty easy. Like for Gmail, that's what we use internally to communicate a lot as well. So even if you send something out of here, but someone replies to it there, it can come into your other email. So really easy in terms of having kind of multiple channels of communication, but always clarity as to where that communication is. And it's not just you. If someone else wanted to kind of take a look in, and maybe you were dealing with this company, and I got a quick email from someone, so that sounds familiar. I think someone else is working with them. I can always jump in and say, okay, you've been in contact. I can see the relationship. So there's no, crossing of wires internally.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can just add a follow-up there. Follow-up clarification, I suppose. When you send an email from this chatter here, and we can't actually demonstrate this because this demo database it's not configured to send emails. When you send an email and your client replies, that reply is going to show up in the chatter as the next message.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can reply and keep the email chain going that way. In your preferences, I believe, your user preferences, you can have those replies also go to your email inbox. That's how I personally have it configured with my inbox is it'll show up in our organization's, we use Gmail, and it'll show up in my Gmail inbox and in Odoo.
Yep, I have it the same.
And so you, that way, have your normal email, which you can look through, and you also have everything recorded within Odoo, so it's captured. So if I'm on vacation and somebody needs to see what's going on with this client I'm dealing with, you can just go and look in the chatter, and you can see the whole communication history. Anyone in your organization who has the right access rights can just see that. They can reply. Also, when sending an email from the chatter here, if you go to the pop-out send box, which is scroll to you're going to have to log a new message first in the chatter, and then pop it out with that little compose icon, the pencil icon. So here you can add additional contacts. So say the client says, hey, can you CC my boss here? You can, and I think you can just actually type an email in there.
You can, yeah. And then if you, let's put in my email for a second. What it'll do, and this is exactly what I thought, you'll basically then, it'll end up creating a new contact. That's just basically going to be that email, which you can go back and fill out later, but it'll capture automatically. It'll recognize saying this is a new person.
Yeah, exactly. And also, just to talk briefly about followers, it's a bit of a can of worms to get into. Well, not really. If you want to learn more about this, you can check out the Odoo 101 webinar. And I see someone asked in the chat to get a link to the recent webinars, and I'll send that out in just a minute, David. But if you add followers, these are the people by default who are going to be receiving messages when you send a message. And you can add followers internal or external. If they're internal,
this is for external, and for internal, since I'm logged in, I'm gonna remove this and see what that looks like. So now internally, add followers. You can add X for external, but you can see here follow. That's for me internally, and I can do unfollow right there. So that's how you add yourself internally, and then external, just like you said. And then there are a couple options on that as well. This will kind of just talk about basically your level of how involved and how much you want to be notified of when things happen. Maybe you just want to see when somebody talks. Maybe you want to see when there's an activity planned, when a stage is changed, or maybe you don't want. You just want to know, look, you're talking about it. That's fine. You got it. Just when it ends, I want to know. So, and what happened and how it ended. So it's up to you to kind of set how much you want to, how much information you want to get as a follower.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's two places, sorry, we keep going into this, but there's two places where you are going to see your notifications. One is your email inbox of your organization's email. That's your Outlook, that's your Gmail, what have you, if your setting is configured as such. And also, you're going to see in the Discuss app in your inbox, you're going to see anything And you can access the Discuss app either through the app's dashboard or through the Discuss app icon at the top of the page there.
Which is right here, and the dashboard when he's talking about it's right here.
Yeah, and in your inbox there, you're going to see anything that's new. So every time you get a message, a notification from something that you're following, it's going to show up here. So that's like your news ticker of everything that's happening in your Odoo world.
Exactly.
Hopefully that answers your question and more. And now let's move on to the next question. Let's see. Amore Pro is asking if it is possible to sell services instead of products. Is that possible?
Yes, we can. So this is going to pull us back to our products database. So if I go into here and I go to products, and this is going to look very similar to our customers database. So this is all the products that we have in Odoo. Again, you have your graphical layout and your line layout. And a lot of you probably have some pretty extensive product catalogs, and with a couple templates once you build, you can be able to import those into Odoo and have all your products automatically kind of populated in. Now, if we look at, let's pick one of these, and if I hit edit here, when I see product type, there's going to be a couple here. So a stockable product means a physical product, and here's a service right here, or a consumable. So yeah, you could put a service as a product type. Let's see if there's one in here already. So just use as an example. Let's do this. Group by. And you can see I'm doing a quick group by product type. Okay, so we have 28 stockable goods. Those look pretty familiar to everybody. And here are our services. So let's pick one. So let's say a basic membership. Let's go into that. So here's a service for a membership to, let's say, a gym or something, and it's going to look like just any other product. You'll be able to come in, build out any sales info on it. Inventory is going to be limited, obviously, because it's not something you have inventory on. Your standard invoicing options, and any sale price, cost price, and any internal reference or anything like that you want to put on it. So yeah, I mean, it's just treated like any other product. When you switch it from, let's say, to stockable product, then some other things like this are going to show up on inventory side. So what's useful here is once you say this is a service, the system recognizes it and says, don't worry about it. You don't need all that information. So it helps you focus onto what's really important, and it narrows kind of the clutter in the way, and really helps you kind of specify out each product on its own. Again, Brett has a great one on inventory and talks about products, both probably service, stockable, and kind of that end of it. And I would highly recommend anyone that wants more info on that to go watch that.
Absolutely. And I think we actually have another webinar specifically on selling service products, because when you sell a service product, what you can then do is invoice working time, invoice a timesheet, basically. And we don't have time to get into that now. That would take 30 minutes.
That's its own webinar.
That's its own webinar. I believe that's on the playlist. If you can't find that, shoot us an email at events@odoo.com, and we can dig up that recording for you. I don't know offhand whether that's there, but it would be something like how to manage your service company with Odoo. It's also covered in the Project Management app webinar, because timesheets are managed through the Project Management app. So let me know if you can't find what you're looking for in the playlist, but absolutely you can sell service products, and it's a pretty robust feature set for doing so. Moving on to the next question, we have one from the Code Odin, I think. And he's asking, he's using in his current system, he has a feature in which you can attach emails to contacts. And sorry, I don't fully understand your question, I think here, but we're going to talk about the chatter more. So he would like to, I'm not sure quite exactly what you want to do here, but you'd like to send emails on contacts, and you'd like to see all of your information in one place, all your email information. And I think we mostly answered the second part of that when we talked about the inbox. But the chatter is a feature that is on many, many records, not just quotes and sale orders.
Exactly.
And
I mean, we're looking at a product right now, and there's a chatter right down here. So I can log an internal note, attach things. This is a functionality that exists under pretty much every, what we're going to call like a form view right here. Again, the point here isn't just, from a sales perspective, it is very much a communication tool internally, externally. But really, you have to think about the chatter of a larger level is this is a really big system, right? And if I want someone, I need to pull in to a very granular piece of information somewhere in here. Using the chatter, I can pull someone into, let's go into inventory for a second, and let's go into a delivery order. And all of a sudden, I need to ping someone and say, hey, there's something wrong with this delivery order. I, again, can do that right here. And I can bring up the users and say, hey, John, take a look at this. So, again, the chatter, from a sales perspective, is a very specific utility. But overall, this is a great tool to not only keep a history and a record of everything, but to able to jump from information point really seamlessly throughout the system, which is really, really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that chatter exists on a contact record. So if you just have, I don't know when you'd use this as opposed to the chatter on an opportunity or a quotation, but know that it is there on a contact record. So
same thing.
It's very flexible as to whatever workflow you want to use it in.
Exactly.
And hopefully that answered your question. I'm not sure if it didn't. Let us know in the chat, and we'll give it another stab. But for now, let's move on to the next question. Here we have one from, excuse me. Here we have one from David Green asking if there is an archive to store company documents, which can be pulled from to upload, attach, etc., as opposed to adding documents from a device and saving to that person. Is there like a central document management feature in Odoo?
Not like a G drive as a kind of a good analogy to that. It is tied to either a project, an opportunity, a customer. There isn't just kind of a repository like a G drive, something like that. However, there's no limit on kind of attaching things like that, but you really have to pick what is the thing that makes the most sense to where that information is going to live. What's the primary driver behind that information. So if it's really looking at it from a customer base, from a project base, once they're a client, that really helps kind of think of it as kind of a couple individual big databases like there, but as in terms of just saying, hey, here is just all the documents, I don't think it's really something as easy or as kind of centralized as a Google Drive like that.
Yeah, I don't...
You'd have to basically pick, like you could say, okay, I wanted to live on these opportunities, let's say, for example. That's where I want it to. But once it closes, maybe you don't. We have clients that say once I close a client here, I go to project and I create a new project off of the sales order number, like right here. And in here, you can store as many documents as you want right there. So this can kind of be a central repository. It's all about kind of how you want to construct the data that you're going to be using day to day and what makes the most sense kind of intuitively for, hey, I need to pull this information on XYZ. Well, where does XYZ live kind of in the system? And if it's someone that's going to be living as managing a client, then you want to go to the project you have assigned to that client, or maybe it's an active opportunity. So the functionality's there, but it's going to be stratified a little bit by application.
Yeah, it's not just a pure file system.
Exactly.
But David has offered us a follow-up question, or a follow-up clarification, I suppose. He says, exactly. So if I need a file or something on another person's device, they need to upload it or otherwise send it to me?
Well, another person's device, I mean, if it's in the database, then it's in the database. If it's only on their phone or their computer, then yeah, they need to put it in here for you to be able to access to it, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, but Odoo lives on a server and you access it through your client. So if somebody uploads a file, if Andre uploads a file to our database, our Odoo database, I can look at that file and download it. I can't go onto his computer. Yeah. But when he puts it on our Odoo, I can go grab it off of our Odoo.
So when you say another person's device, it doesn't matter. If it's on only that hard drive, then yeah, it needs to be sent around. But once it's in here on that server, anyone that's in your system that's a user has access to it and can see it.
Absolutely. And we are actually 5 minutes over time, so I'm going to wrap it up there. I want to thank you guys all for coming out. Really appreciate you joining us, asking us questions, engaging with us. It's great for us, and hopefully it was good for you. If you want to see more webinars, please subscribe to our channel. You'll be notified of any future upcoming webinars that we have scheduled. I believe we have one next Wednesday on advanced inventory routes. I'm not sure how much crossover there is going to be in terms of interest from you guys to advanced inventory routes, but we do a wide range of topics on pretty much all things Odoo, and sometimes higher level topics like talking about implementation strategies or such topics like that. We also do webinars in Spanish if any of you guys are interested. Those are going to be on Tuesday mornings. English webinars are on Wednesday mornings. And again, if you want to watch this recording, you can just revisit this URL at any time. And if you want to watch another recording, I dropped a link in the chat here just a moment ago. That's a list of all of our recorded webinars that we have published. And again, if you have a follow-up question or if you want to get into something in more detail, if you have a personalized use case that you want to get into, you can book a meeting directly on Andre's calendar using the link in the description of this video. That's going to be odoo.com/r/Andre. So if you want to get into something again.
Yep, feel free to reach out, put something on my calendar, and happy to go from there.
Great, yeah. And again, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.